Welcome, fellow plebs. My name is Sean, and this is
Tribunus Plebis.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. So I had something else to record tonight, something I've been working on, but that went out the window with some of the things that we've heard over the past few days in the wake of the Uvalde school shooting. So first, I just want to acknowledge, the shooting itself. When a twisted monster walked into a grade school and massacred a classroom of students. I don't know how to talk about this. Just the pure horror of it. The sadness of it, the incomprehensible nature of it. But it's not incomprehensible in this country, is it? It's basically normal at this point. These sorts of shootings happen way too often, even if they lack, the grotesque nature, or maybe just, the horror that the age of these children put into this whole thing. Because, all of these things are grotesque, but just they're 10-year-olds, man. They're little babies. But, a crime like this against young children is just especially jarring and horrific. And obviously, rest in peace to all the victims, and peace and love to all of their families and the community at large. I wish I could say something more poignant that had a little more meaning to it, but it's just so shocking. It's just shock. And there is, obviously something to be said here about everything from gun ownership and gun control to mental health and right down to school security. Just everything involved in this should be talked about. But I'm not going to talk about any of those things, and I really wasn't going to talk about this shooting at all, to be honest with you. It just hurts to even think about it. If I tried to actually talk about the event itself at length, I'd probably just end up crying. I can't even imagine the extra feels that this must elicit from parents. It just boggles my mind. That said, and if I'm not going to talk about the shooting itself, then what's left? In this episode, I'm going to talk about cowardice. Specifically, the cowardice of the cops on the scene. And also, the dishonest nature of these cowards. And listen, I'm going to tell you right up front that this isn't well planned out here. So it's not going to be a long or probably even well done. But it's just something that I really need to get out. And I'm going to be on some ACAB fuck 12 shit. So if you like to lick boots, just hit stop right now. Okay, well, you didn't hit stop. So let's shit on some cops. First of all, the cops began this by lying, saying that they engaged the shooter before he entered the school. Then they changed their story. The gunman roamed outside the Uvalde school for 12 minutes before entering unchallenged, police said on Thursday. That contradicted earlier statements which said that the attacker had been confronted and shot at by an officer. This according to the BBC. Then the monster began killing a teacher and children. 19 children and 2 adults. And the cowards in badges proceeded to do absolutely nothing to stop it. Nothing. Not a goddamn thing. Children being massacred, and they just chilled and they pepper sprayed worried family members. What was exhibited in Uvalde, Texas during that entire shooting was abject cowardice. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Every single cop who was on that scene should be fired. Every single one of them. They sat back and they allowed children to be butchered. At one point, 19 police officers lingered in the hall outside of the classroom where the shooter was killing children. They could hear the gunshots and they could hear the screams. And they waited in that hallway for keys. They waited for the fucking keys. They waited for somebody to track down a janitor somewhere or something to get the key ring so that they could unlock the door. And see, here's the thing about these cowards. These pieces of shit line up and volunteer to kick doors down on sleeping minorities and gun them down in their beds. They go to their Hogan's Alleys and their shooting rooms, and they dress up in their fancy hardcore tactical gear, and they break down fake doors and shoot fake targets with perfect headshots, and then they clap themselves on the back and they pose for photos in their gear, and it gets on the local news website. Yay, cops. And then they go out and they abuse the public, and they never hesitate for a second to charge 10 at a time into a home with one person in it, and they all beat their chests and they want to be called heroes. Then they call themselves heroes. Heroes. But when it came down to it, when the cops were asked to do the singular thing that could actually justify their existence, to protect children from a rampaging maniac with a rifle, they bitched up. They turtled. They pissed their pants. They were cowards. Every single one of them. And some of you might say, what, were they supposed to charge into that room and be mowed down by a guy with a rifle? Yes. Yeah, they should have. That's exactly what the fuck they should have done. I don't care if the first officers, outside of that class were outgunned or were in a weak position charging through a door. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Kick the door down and go in. That's it. Get fucking shot at. Shoot back. Die even. Save some kids for fuck's sake. In fact, there should have been police charging through that door in an unending stream until either that gunman was dead or the pile of cop bodies was so broad and so deep that the shooter could no longer harm the kids. That's what should have happened. Yes, this is exactly what I'm saying. You're hearing it right. They should have gone in there and died if they had to. If the initial cops were outside that door with, like a 6-shot 22 caliber revolver and no bulletproof vests, they should have gone through that door. They should have kicked that door down and shot spitballs at that asshole if they had to. They should have tried. They should have done almost anything at all, but they didn't. They were gutless pieces of shit when it mattered the most. The only cops who actually did anything in that school rushed in to save their own children and left all those others to die. In a moment like this, the only sort of moment that can truly justify the idea of having police-like force in existence, it's like to protect 10-year-olds from a rampaging madman with a gun, the cops shook. They shook and they cowered. Why even have these bastards around if they can't even do this? The central reason people believe that we need them. And I heard somebody ask, somebody else today, it was something like, how can you say this? How do you think this makes those cops feel? They were there. You weren't. Fuck them is my answer. I hope these pigs can never look themselves in the eyes. They deserve the shame. They deserve every single bit of it. What they did at that school, or what they failed to do at that school, is absolutely unconscionable. Fire them all. They should never wear a badge again. It took over an hour for them to do anything at all to stop the massacre. The most action most of these cops saw was when they assaulted the distraught parents of the children who were being murdered in that school. These parents were literally begging the police to do something, to do anything at all to save their children. And instead of saving children, these cops, these pigs, these absolute hogs did absolutely nothing at all to stop the murders, and they spent their energy instead arresting the worried parents and forming a barrier to prevent the parents from taking the action that they were too cowardly to attempt themselves. And the dude who's, become a spokesman for the police, His response to the criticism of these cops was to say this, and I shit you the fuck not, these are his actual words. He said, quote, "At that point, if they proceeded further without knowing where this suspect was at, they could have been shot, they could have been killed," end quote. Yeah, they could have been shot. I do not care. 100% I do not care. If you believe that we need cops, this is it. This is the reason. Go in, get shot at, get fucking shot. I don't care. Do something. Shoot back. What the fuck world is this? Go fight the guy killing children, you cowards. The cops were worried about getting shot. What about the fucking 10-year-olds actually being shot? How the fuck do you just sit there and listen to that and not dive in front of bullets? How do you not respond to children calling 911 and begging for help, telling you that they're alive, that others are alive, and you just sit there and piss yourself? These cowards LARP as heroes. They aren't fucking heroes. They're cowards. Cowards. Gutless cowards. And I don't see how any of this is even remotely controversial. And no, I'm not a cop. And no, I don't give a fuck about that. They're still cowards. They were fucking craven. And they allowed children to be slaughtered. They just allowed it. And maybe being a fucking cop is kind of the problem here, because these pieces of shit were certainly not human beings in this moment. Because this country worships these cowards, and they play act as badasses when they suit up and practice, or when they beat and murder the public and hide behind their badges and authority. When they put on that uniform, they turn from a human to a cop. The police part overrides everything else. The uniform here doesn't make the man. The man is supposed to make the uniform. And frankly, there wasn't a man to be seen that day in Uvalde, or woman. Just cops. And cops are cowards. They were afraid of being shot. Jesus fucking Christ. And they let children die in their stead. Cowards. The teachers were brave. The babies in that class were brave. The pigs were cowardly, craven, gutless, cowering, quailing, impotent hogs. Over an hour. And they didn't do anything but abuse the worried parents outside for over an hour. How many babies bled out over that hour who could have been saved? How many were shot well after the police could have begun fighting back? A lot, since we know that they listened to multiple gunshots coming from the room while they waited for the fucking keys. How many children were forced to watch their classmates be murdered because these gutless swine couldn't face danger in their defense? The actions and behavior of the pigs on the scene at the shooting was absolutely despicable. And if you're flying a blue line flag, you're part of the goddamn problem. If you believe cops, you're part of the problem. If you call these cowards brave, you're part of the problem. To serve and protect is a complete joke at this point. If you disagree with any of this, I do not care. Don't listen anymore. The cop sat outside of that class waiting for keys while a student was repeatedly calling 911 for help. Sorry, kid, help isn't coming. Oh, no, they're there. They're right on the other side of that door. But they're pissing themselves in the hallway, and, the door is locked. Guess this just isn't your day, kid, because the cops are terrified. Sorry. There's only 19 of them out there. They're waiting for more help and some keys. What the fuck? And this isn't even to mention how much the pigs lied to cover up their gross cowardice. That school was absolutely mobbed with well-armored police for an hour while they all stood around terrified that they might actually take fire. Yeah, go take fire. Rescue children, for fuck's sake. They lied from the start, and they're guaranteed to be lying now. Absolutely, it will be worse than we know right now. And it's pretty goddamn bad. They claimed that they didn't go in that room because they believed the children were all dead. They thought it was just down to a barricaded subject, which was a lie. The entire time there were 911 calls from inside the classroom saying that they needed help and that the shooter was still there. Gutless cowards, every one of these cops. Absolutely gutless. They directly contributed to the body count here. And let me repeat that last point differently. The coward cops are directly responsible for most of these dead children through their lack of action. I don't know what else to say. I never remember being, this absolutely irate over a subject before. These cops are cowards. They were gutless cowards who allowed children to be shot, to let them suffer, and to let them die. And they tried to justify it. They tried to justify their cowardice. This is just what it is. Do not let these cowards get away with it. And that's it. That's the episode. No, you're not even getting music on the outro. Bye.